Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Welcome back. We have a show for you today. It's Tuesday. I got to be in the studio with my broken knee, and it's good to be here with you today. I do want to say this, and I put it up on socials today because I thought it was important to at least have a conversation about it, and that is, I think one of the deepest, most revealing things that I've heard in a long time was when President Trump said, I'm not sure that I'm going to heaven. I'm not sure I've done enough to go to heaven. Imagine how much weight you would have to say that. So you have pastors and you have people that frankly are feckless that are telling President Trump that, oh no, you have to have open borders and you have to be compassionate for other people. And what they're really saying is you have to sacrifice certain people in order to save other people. So you have to sacrifice Americans and people that built this country in order to accommodate people that just came in, cut in line, and decided to take whatever opportunities they can get in front of them, including lots of benefits that Americans don't have. And we could talk about benefits that specifically that veterans don't have. We're going to bring up a lot of stuff today. It was pretty heavy. It was a heavy thought when I went back and listened to it because somebody said, hey, do you think President Trump is going to go to heaven? And I was like, yeah, I do. I think he is. And they said, well, he has to accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior. I said, he's already talked about the fact that God saved him. What more do you want from him? You want him to publicly do it so you can then acknowledge the fact that he's going to heaven? It's not up to you. That's between him and God. But I do think that it's got to be weighing heavily on his mind. And keep in mind, he has access to information we don't have access to. Imagine how much less faith in humanity you'd have to have if you knew all the dirty details. It'd be a lot. So we're gonna talk about NGOs again. So I've been looking for the episode. If one of you wants to go back and look at the episode for me, but I was looking at the episode where I talked about back in 2022 that NGOs, 140 of them in Colorado were basically job farms and were being funneled money so that they could pay people to sit on the streets and be Antifa. And that is actually how they do it. They don't. The problem, the hard part about figuring out what's happening in the community and how these people are doing the things that they're doing is you're trying to go about it and say, okay, who's writing them a check? And nobody. They have what are called no-show jobs. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about how they've been given billions of dollars, how that led to stealing elections, to massive, massive Antifa and BLM and these organizations that are well-funded and in disparate environments. And now the campaign that they're trying to create is that the devil doesn't exist. They're actually saying Antifa doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. They're mocking it. They're putting frogs on the street as if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still not a demon. So I'll tell you this, the greatest lie the devil ever told was that it didn't exist. But we know it does exist. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about that. We're going to bring that in to our guest, Mike Vecchione. I got it right this time. Huh? Vecchione. 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 Mike Vecchione is joining us. Man, I was close the first time. I want you to see this. This is an Illinois lawmaker. This will kind of feed into what we're talking about with the billions of dollars that are funneled through NGOs. Let's play cut one.
I'm Representative Brad Halbrook of the 107th District of Shelbyville. Today we're turning our attention to a staggering amount of taxpayer money, over $1 billion, that's being funneled into political connected non-government organizations, or NGOs. This wasn't uncovered by government watchdogs, but concerned Illinoisans and Republican legislators that our grassroots effort we call DOGE, or the Department of Government Efficiency. Before we show you where the money's going, we need to ask one simple question. Why is government funding NGOs at all? First, there's no transparency. NGOs aren't subject to the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. Taxpayers can't see how their money is being spent. Just last week, a lawsuit was filed because the state refused to release a contract detailing how much public money was being sent to specific groups. Second, the budget language is vague and on purpose. These grants are buried under broad terms with little or no detail. Lawmakers are being asked to approve funding without knowing how the money will be used or even who's getting it. Third, the human services budget has been hijacked. It used to mean helping seniors, helping single mothers, and people with disabilities. Now it's packed with programs for politically aligned groups offering vague services like parent mentoring, immigrant support, LGBTQ advocacy, and many are race or identity-based initiatives that serve political agendas, not real need. Fourth, this spending undermines real charity. Faith-based groups and private charities are being pushed aside while politically connected NGOs scoop up taxpayer dollars. The government is picking winners and losers and rewarding those who keep the majority party in power.
Let me ask you this. When in the last 20 years have they successfully solved the problem and it gotten better? Just give me one example. That a politician in any major city has done anything that makes the lives of the people there better. There aren't any. There are no examples. And the reason being is because, I mean, let's be perfectly honest about this. There are absolutely nothing that comes out of their mouths in these NGOs that aligns with actually taking care of the people. And I know this from USAID overseas. They would just sell it out in the black market. Somebody was making money, but it was never taking care of the people. It never once solved the problem, which is why I say that if you don't get rid of the machines and mail-in ballots, you can't get to a place where the people have a voice. Well, let's take a look at this. This is another video. And Portland used to be a beautiful place. It was just a couple decades ago that I went there all the time. All the time. Loved it. It was amazing. And it was safe. Let's go ahead and play this.
When I post videos like this, I oftentimes get a lot of comments from haters that say every city is like this. This isn't interesting. Why do you have to make Portland look so bad? I'm like, first of all, not every city is like this, and Portland never used to be like this. I'm old enough to grow up in a time when Portland was an amazing city, a beautiful city, a city people wanted to go to, right? I miss that city. Most Portlanders over the age of, say, 40 know what it feels like to be in that very, very special city. But things have changed. And again, not every city is like this. Other cities just know how to control this and actually help the individuals. And that is an issue. We spend $740 million a year in Portland Metro to curb homelessness. How is that working out? Not so well. That's about $80,000 per street homeless person. That's absolutely obscene. This is just not the way to do it. I do believe Portland has the potential of making a comeback, but it's going to take political will. And currently, this political will isn't so great.
I mean, think about what he just said. $80,000 a year per homeless person. So who's getting rich? And why is it that we ask questions and we find out that people are being criminal and then nothing happens? If you have enough money for $80,000, almost $750 million a year spent on homelessness. If you had $80,000 a year per homeless person, that means you have what? A couple thousand people that are working, getting paid $750 million? Just tell me. Tell me where the money's going. I'm going to tell you where it's going. It's a big ruse. It's a big cabal, a cartel, and the cartel is taking that money and using it against those very people, putting more fentanyl on the streets, putting more guns on the street, making it more unsafe, and creating victims. That's what the devil does. All right, but here's more. This is more developments on the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Director talking about the migrant parole program. Let's go ahead and play it.
You mentioned that some of this should have been caught earlier in previous administrations. What wasn't being done, in your view, that should have been done in previous years?
Well, you're aware of the CHNV, the parole programs that the previous administration was involved in, bringing people in. People here were allowed to sponsor individuals to come in from certain countries. As I said, we found organizations here that were involved in sponsoring many individuals. They did not know necessarily the individuals they were sponsoring. They were doing almost a blanket sponsorship. That is fraud. That's something that should have been caught. It's something that I know the previous administration was aware of how the sponsorships were happening, and no action was taken. I'm glad to see that we're taking action.
Okay, and Elon Musk has been really quiet, but he hasn't been that so quiet that he's not talking about George Soros and what he's doing in these NGOs. I've said this back in 2022. Nonprofit organizations are basically cartel organizations. Let's go ahead and play this.
It's kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. I mean, these days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into a $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization, and then the government continues to fund that every year, and it'll have a nice-sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are the requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine.
So think about that. Billions of dollars gets funneled over to guys to become billionaires that get handed down generationally. They never really did any work. It sounds like Nancy Pelosi, worth $300 million, and frankly has her family historically, they were actually gangsters. They were organized crime. And now they've moved organized crime into government and taken over roles and had this slow meld while making $300 million on $160,000 a year in a salary. It sounds almost unbelievable, but it is believable. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break on this, and I want to talk to you about something else right now. I keep talking, everyone keeps saying, Joe, I can't afford to play in the game of gold, silver, or copper. And I got on here and I said, yes, you can. I don't think you can buy copper from Goldco. You might be able to if you buy a bunch of it. But I said, go buy stuff. Go buy stuff. Go buy as much as you possibly can. If you're going to go buy a coffee, take the $5 to buy the coffee and put it into buy copper. Same with silver. Now, let me ask you guys a question. 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I talked about the cost of gold. What's the gold price today? It's 41.60.90 right now. So gold over literally the last 6 months is up 28%. Year to date, it's up 55%. So if you would have put $2,000 into this, into gold, you would now have $4,000 ish, $3,500. $3,000. You would have made a 55% return. What about silver? What's silver at today? And I think that silver as a whole was at the beginning of the year was $30. If you go back 1 year, it was I think it was 30. Yeah, it's up $20 for the year. It's going to get much worse. That $50 silver is going to be, and I say much worse because I can't tell if the dollar is depreciating or if gold and silver are going up. One of two things is true. But if the dollar collapses, if BRICS continues to do what they're doing, you're going to need stable currency. So if you have $100 laying around, buy silver. You know, we talk about IRA and converting it. You should do that. But all I want you to do is I want you to check your investments. Some of you say, I don't have investments. Okay, you don't have investments. But you need to start spending money in order to protect your environment, your assets, so that if something happens, you're protected. So you can go to untamedgold.com, untamedgold.com. Go there and at least just have them send you a packet. And you always know that Joe at untamednation.com. If you sent me an email, I'll answer it. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I've done fairly well with it, obviously. And the market for gold is going to get much worse. I would not be surprised if gold hit 10,000, and I would be even less surprised if silver didn't hit $150 to $200 over the next 18 months. That's what I think. All right, take it down. All right, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot more time. I want to bring our guest in. And you guys have had him on here before. He was the Brooklyn chief of homicide. And yeah, he doesn't really need much of an introduction because you guys loved having him on. So I wanted to have him on again. Mike's a great dude. I had a great conversation with him. So let's just go ahead and join us. Mike Vecchione, how you doing?
You.
Did I say it right this time? Did I say it right this time?
You did. Vecchione, that's the name. I told you last time that growing up, it was anything close, and then I answered to it, you know? So
yeah, I got called Oatmeal because my last name was Oltmann, so they called me all sorts of stuff.
So, hey, I got to tell you, I'm good. I just finished my my latest book, anyway. So I'm in the process of finishing up the editing, and if all goes well, should have it out sometime early next year. So it's I'm really excited about it. And one of these days, you'll have me on, and we'll talk about the book because I think you'll really get a kick out of it in terms of the subject matter and what it's what it's all about and what it all means, because it's really, you talked about God and Trump going to heaven, and my friend Jimmy Dennedy, who was the cop who was the subject of this book, was one of the guys, if you met him early on, you would say, well, this guy has no shot at getting up there. And yet now I would say that I hope he takes me with him, because he's definitely going after what he did to turn his life around, and very proud of him. So it was a labor of love to write this book, and I'm very, very excited about it. And I did the edits last week and early part of this week. I had to read. The way I do it is I read it out loud, and I have a friend of mine who's an English professor, and he reads it with me, and we do the changes, etc. there. And there were times when, even though I wrote the book and I heard all the stories, I got choked up in terms of being emotional at what Jimmy did for people. And so anyway, that's how I am. I'm doing okay.
What do you think, Mike? I definitely want to read your book. I mean, I don't know if there's like a get on the first list to read it book list, but I mean, if it hasn't come out yet, I'll read it quickly. So
well, it hasn't come out yet, but I can send you a PDF of it if you'd like to read it.
I'll read it, and then I'll have you
okay.
on, and we'll walk through it. We'll build
Great.
some excitement on it.
That'd be great.
Sure.
That'd be great. It's called Hard Guys, and it's the authorized biography of my friend Jimmy Dennedy, who was a New York City cop, then became a detective, then went to the Joint Terrorist Task Force, and then from there, he got asked by a bunch of people who he met in his new home or around in his new neighborhood, upstate New York, to join a group called Corcio, which is a Catholic or Christian organization, which kind of it has people improve their lives by getting closer to God, and then from that he got into something called the Kairos Prison Ministry, and took it into two prisons here in New York. One in federal prison. One was a federal prison. The other was a state prison. And told me, Mike, when I first got into this, I didn't want to do this. He said, I used to lock up these guys. Now they want me to go in and talk to them. He did it for a weekend, for a retreat weekend, and returned for that next Wednesday night. Everybody at his table, all of the prisoners showed up to come back to talk to him. Not that way with the other people who were there, but just for him. And 25 years later, finally, COVID put him out of business, and he went. He's now not. He's a private investigator now, and that's what he's doing. He hasn't gone back into the prison system. So, but the story is terrific, just terrific. And the guys who he helped, man, you wouldn't want them. Never mind, be with them next to them in a prison where you can't go anywhere. You wouldn't want to be with them, even in a big open field because of what they could do to you. But Jimmy somehow has got a personality that you can't believe, and he's great with this. So it's a good story. It's a good story. So I'll get it to you.
I'd love to read it. I'd love to read it. And actually, I'll push it right to the front. I've got a stack in my room. It's literally a stack this high. It's like 2 feet high of books that I have to read that I've ordered. That I need to get through, and I push through about one book a week, so I do quite well with it. So how many pages is it?
I haven't printed it out yet, but on the computer it turned out to be, I don't know, maybe 210, something like that. 200. Yeah, it's not a big long book, so and it's fast read. I'm told by the people who edit it that it's really a quick read, and it flows very well. So I'm happy with it, and so is Jimmy. So it's good. It's good.
Well, I gotta jump on the things that are happening right now, and I gotta get your opinion on this stuff. Mike, they said that Antifa is not an organization. They're trying to convince us it's not an organization.
Yeah.
How can you even describe anything that they haven't done? I mean, I know what the organization is that's behind it. That's DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America. We've established that that's really the foundation of Antifa. But how do you square the fact that you have people everywhere that are repeating the same thing, saying Antifa's and just an idea?
You know where I've heard that before? When it comes to the mob and the mafia. You know how many people? First book I wrote was about 2 New York City cops who were on a mob payroll doing murders for them and taking money to tip them off to informants, etc. And when I did the book signing, someone actually came up to me, a fellow Italian as well, and said, how could you possibly write a book like this? Can you put the M word on paper? There is no such thing as the mafia. And I laughed. Basically laughed in his face. I'm too polite to have told him to go F himself, but it's the same kind of thing. If you travel under the radar scope, so to speak. And now Antifa is not even under the radar. I mean, but in terms of their structure, their hierarchy, they've kept it exactly the way they want it to be, so people could say exactly what you said, that there is no Antifa. Because tell me, who is the leader? Tell me who the leader is. Well, it's the same thing with the mafia. Nobody would say, who's the leader? You know, the press would put out a name and they would laugh and say, no, you can't prove that. And, you know, for the longest time, until RICO came out, actually, you couldn't. But Antifa is the same way. And speaking of RICO, Antifa is perfect. It's perfect for a RICO prosecution. You can grab some of those people. You don't need a leader to have a RICO prosecution. You just establish that there is a group and that the group has committed 2 or more crimes in furtherance of the group over the last 10 years, and you can make a RICO prosecution and arrest these guys and charge them as part of this racketeer, influence, corrupt organization, which Antifa is, in my opinion. So,
well, it's hard to get your mind around just how bad it really has gotten when the social media platforms and the media, somebody has to be in charge, Mike. Somebody has to be building these narratives behind it. So how is it that we can't get to that person?
Okay. Can I go back to something else that I've done in my career? And a jury asked me, after I convicted the first really big politician that I did, he was the head of the Democrat Party in Brooklyn and a very powerful Democrat across the country. They said to me, the jury said to me, how is it possible that we have never learned about this, that this has gone on for such a long period of time? And I said, you know what? Why? No one looked. No one looked. Someone should be appointed as a special prosecutor in this country, look at Antifa, and to make it his or her life's work until this thing is put to rest. That is the only way that this is going to get done. You can't leave it to local prosecutors, even local U.S. attorneys, because this is a nationwide organization, and you need to have someone in charge on the good side to do what we need.
I can tell you right now, I could find out who the person that was running it was. I could find out easily.
Good. Well,
I could use technology.
I'm sure you can, Joe.
But that's why I say I can't be the smartest guy in the room. Right? I can't be the smartest guy in the room. How do you get to the person that is running all of this? Because you know it's all coordinated, which means that information has to go out through something into the spider web, and then the spider web starts speaking it, and they speak it into existence, and it's because it's parroted everywhere over and over and over again, it creates the psyop.
Do we know for a fact, and I'm just throwing this out, that somebody in the Trump administration is not doing what I just suggested be done? He's named it a domestic terrorist organization.
Yep.
It seems to me that should lead now to someone being in charge of finding out who is at the forefront of this domestic terrorist organization. It might be happening, Joe, and we don't know about it. But I think that's the only way to get at it. You've got to have a coordinated, centralized investigation, or centralized and controlled by very few people in terms of the hierarchy of a group to go after these guys. That's the only way you're going to do it. And of course, you got to follow the money. And I don't know why I don't think it's difficult, but I don't know why following the money hasn't taken place already. Because, again, I've done a lot of cases involving the mob, and when you go after and find out what the source of income is, and cut it off, it's like cutting the head off the snake. That's the way to do it. And if I was back working, I would have volunteered with my boss. I was in Brooklyn. I don't think Antifa has operated in Brooklyn, but
they have, and they do.
Okay, well then that's what I would have done. I was chief of rackets, so it would have fallen right into my purview. And what I did with the politicians is what I would do with this. I had a small group of assistant DAs who I trusted, a small group of detectives who I trusted, and we went to work. And that's how we did it. That's how we did it. So, and you know, one other thing, you know, RICO is something that was an amazing piece of amazing weapon against the mob, because you don't have to prove that everyone who's in the organization has committed these crimes. You just have to prove that the organization exists for the purpose that I just outlined before. Anybody then who is a part of that organization is guilty of the RICO violation, and it carries in a lot of states and in the federal government, it carries a life sentence. So, so that's how that would be my suggestion. That's how I would go after it.
All right, Mike, I got to ask the question because I think it's important for people to understand it. Why have we eroded? You know, I had a job in college, right? Way back when. And I was a waiter at a place called the Rio Grande Cafe in Bethesda, Maryland, right? Now, you had to wear a bow tie. You had to wear a white shirt, had to be pressed, black pants, couldn't park in front of the building. I mean, it was, and if you screwed up once, like if they saw you, you couldn't put your shirt on next to your car. If someone saw you putting your shirt on next to your car, you'd be suspended. And it's 3 days the first time, and you're fired the second, right? I mean, it was strict. You had to be there 5 minutes early. You had to be. They had a roll call where they'd walk up and down the line. So, I got. I made a lot of money there. I met Tom Brokaw there, right? I mean, there was a lot of presidents had gone to this place, right? And so I went back, I don't know, 10 years later, and no bow ties. The people are dressed like slobs. By the way, you weren't allowed to have any earrings in. You weren't allowed to have any, they had a strict policy, and it looked like a bunch of derelicts. And so I asked the manager, a manager came over, I said, hey, what happened? Like, why is it that you know, when I worked here, you had to, 10 years later, that you had these rules, and yet now, not only do you not have rules, but that people look like, and he said, yeah, they changed the rules about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been downhill ever since. That's what's happened in society.
Yep.
Our society has done exactly what happened in that restaurant.
Yep.
It was just weird.
Got it. It's exactly correct. You know, I know what you're talking about, and it used to be where people cared and people held other people's feet to the fire in certain situations like you're talking about. Not anymore, because we had a period of time where you were afraid to even say anything. If you said something which you have been talking about for the first 20, 30, 40 years of your life, now you say it at a certain particular time, that's it. You're a pariah. That's it. We don't want to have anything to do with you. You're shunned it was the word. And it got to the point, I have to tell you, that when I started writing, you know, I grew up in the 60s. I was born in 49. So I grew up in the 60s, 70s. And at that point, things were a lot of people doing a lot of things. There were a lot of, drugs. There was all kinds of music was great. I mean, it was freewheeling. Nobody was afraid to say, hey, and make a comment about somebody, because they would give it back to you. But things evolved, or I should say devolved, into a situation where you were afraid to even say anything, that someone took offense, and someone would take it because someone would take offense to it. But not I didn't give a damn if they would take offense to it. But if they then do something as a result of that, they make your life miserable because of doing that. Well, that's, to me, society devolving into its lowest form, and we have been living that.
But it hasn't just been like that in the United States. It's done that across the entire world, which means it had to be orchestrated, which means somebody is pulling the levers
Yep.
And when you have the World Economic Forum that's talking about getting rid of 90% of the population, you have Bill Gates that's over there pumping vaccines and experimental drugs into Africans to basically kill off entire populations by sterilizing them. I mean, there's some serious problems that we're dealing with right now that have manifested over the last 2 to 3 decades.
There's no question, no question. And you know, I see you have the Trump shirt on, and I'm a Trump guy from the very beginning. And you know, and I can tell you that I am heartened by the fact that for the last, what are we in October? For the last 10 months, I do feel a change in some things in the United States. I really do. Which is why when your producer asked me what I wanted to talk about, I mentioned to her, or in my email back, that New York is getting ready to slip even further than it has slipped since the Giuliani Bloomberg days. Because if we have this, if the people here, and it's not, I can't say we, because I'm never going to vote for the guy, but if the people here vote for this communist, socialist that we have, and you mentioned them before, the
Mamdani.
Democrat Socialists of America, we are going to, if you think it's bad now, Joe, it's talk to me in 2 years and I'll tell you how bad it is, assuming that you can still live here. You know, so, I'm not sure. My wife and I are talking about it already, that maybe we might have to move out of here. I've lived here all my life, but I can't go through another Dinkins administration like I did back in the 80s and the early 90s. When Giuliani came in, it was like a breath of fresh air. And this is going to be now smothering having this guy in. And I just can't. So we in New York have not evolved. We have continued to devolve, whereas other parts of the country are evolving and hopefully getting out of what you talked about before.
Yeah, so, I mean, you look at what's happened right now and you look at all the things that have gone on in New York and the ups and downs, the ebb and flows of crime, but now you can't own a gun. We had a guy that literally on a train protected other passengers, put them in a chokehold, and they went after him for murder.
Absolutely.
Right?
It was shameful is what I felt it was. Shameful.
The fact that people had to spend $1 million to defend him is even more shameful.
Yeah, it really is. It really was. You know, it's the kind of thing, and you know what it did? May not necessarily overtly so much, but certainly subtly change the way that people thought about getting involved in a situation such as that. Maybe not necessarily one that was that bad or as bad as this one was, but even if someone on the subway is creating an issue or creating a problem, I recall people would stand up and say, "Hey, shut up," or "Sit down," or "We're going to kick you off the train." Now, nobody will do that. And that, you know, the incident that happened down at yeah, I know.
I'm still that guy. I'm still the guy that will break somebody's face. Well, I don't care. I mean, look, I don't care.
Yep. Well, the incident in Charlotte was a perfect example of that. I mean, this guy walked in and just stabbed this woman and killed her, and nobody did a goddamn thing.
And 39 times he was arrested, 25 for felonies.
Exactly. It's
But why is it even a debate? Mike, why is it a debate? Why can we not look at this and say these guys should be in prison for the rest of his life?
Here's what I believe. I believe that your premise about money being given to these NGOs doesn't stop with the NGOs.
No,
it goes
politicians too.
Correct. Politicians. Politicians have an ego the size of the Empire State Building. Okay. So if they want that fed constantly. So what they do is they will take money from any source that was willing to give it to. And if it's a guy like Soros, and Soros says, "Hey, you got to prosecute this guy for murder, otherwise I'm not funding your campaign in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is." Well, what did the DA do in Manhattan? He did it. He did something that I couldn't believe. I was ashamed to have thought about myself as a prosecutor after I thought that I was a prosecutor after I I saw what happened. It was something which never would have happened. I can say it without a doubt, in my office when I was working there. Never would have happened. DA Hines would have never allowed that to take place. It was just politics, raw politics. They were just basically, he was the DA, just saying to Soros essentially, see, just keep giving me the money. I'll take care of it. Keep giving me the money. We had another one that didn't even make that much headline, didn't make headlines at all, but didn't make that much publicity. There was a guy who was working in a bodega, and I think it was in Upper Manhattan, by himself. And two people walked in, came behind the counter. He was an elderly guy and took out a knife and to threaten him and was about to stab him when he took out a knife of his own and stabbed the guy. Who do you think got arrested? The guy who was protecting himself got arrested. And it was such an uproar that the DA had to finally dismiss the case against him. Finally got it in his head that this was self-defense. And I think because several people or several assets in the community that of this guy's ethnic community of the guy who was arrested probably went to him and said, hey, listen, you crossed the line here. And if you want to get elected,
but how was that even a line? Mike, how was that even a line? How's that a line?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. I agree.
But in whose mind could that even be a discussion?
Oh, are you kidding, Joe? Are you kidding?
That's my point. Is that we shouldn't be able to debate the ridiculous.
Correct.
Like we sit around and say, cut off boys' penises. And by the way, give them puberty blockers at 6 years old. I mean, we literally are living in wacko land. This isn't normal. This is not even not normal. It's demonic. And we still debate it. We don't stand up and punch it in the face and be like, yeah. Do that again, and we're going to drag you through the streets.
Yep. Listen, the only way we can do it on a local level in the city is the 5 district attorneys. I don't know that much about Staten Island. I think that guy is
Letitia James.
No, she's the Attorney General of the state.
I know.
That's even worse. So the bottom line is they have to be booted out of office. And we've got to get people in here who respect the law and who are not they don't have to be brilliant. They have to just know the difference between right and wrong. They have to just simply look at something and say, you know what, that's right or that's wrong. And I'm going to go after it. But we don't have it, Joe. We don't have it because money, it's all has to do with money. And
how in the world does it benefit anyone? Anyone? I just don't know how people are so retarded they can't see it. Like, and look, I'm at the end of my rope, Mike. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm at the end of my rope. If someone comes at me, my first instinct, if someone comes at me, is to put them down like a dog.
Yeah.
I'll pray for them afterwards, right? I will. I mean, as they're leaving this life, I will pray for them.
What's the saying? Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So that's I understand. I understand.
I'm the most compassionate guy you'll ever meet. Like I will go out of my way to help anyone. But if you come for me, I'm going to put you down. I mean, that's just, and I'm going to do so with zero anger. I'm not even angry. If I'm smiling at you while we're fighting, you're in big trouble.
Well, the whole idea, the whole idea of that there is something wrong with protecting yourself is just ridiculous, just ridiculous. And protecting yourself doesn't necessarily mean only you. What Penny, that's the guy that fellow's name, Daniel Penny, what he did on the subway, that is something which, if you were a Catholic, that's something he was supposed to do and is right in terms of doing what he did. There's no question about it because he was defending someone else's life. And so I don't, I just found it, as I said before, I just found it repulsive that somebody would be arrested for doing that. And I can't believe that assistant district attorneys in that office, particularly the one who tried the case, actually tried it and didn't say to his boss or her boss, I forgot who tried it, I'm not doing this. You want to fire me? Then fire me. But I'm not doing this. And walk out. So that's what you had to do.
So let me just tell you about my friend, okay? My friend was an ADA for many years in a DA's office in Colorado, in a red area, right?
Right.
And he was very good. Probably one of the most ethical people you'll ever meet. He is Catholic, and he had a case where they basically wanted to throw the book at this person, but he's like, "Listen, this doesn't fit. Like, why would you do that?" They picked him up on a technicality, and it was a 3 strikes rule, and he had gotten his life together, and this was just wrong. It wasn't even a case that even made any sense, right? To have this guy locked up for 10 years or 15 years on it was, and so he went and said, "Look, I don't want to do it." And they said, "Hey, you don't have a choice. You're going to do exactly what you're told." The DA says that he wants the book thrown at this particular person, and so my friend, I almost said his name. Sorry, I almost said your name. He decided, I'm going to give the guy a plea deal and plead it out the way I want to do it, which basically is a slap on the wrist and get out of here, right? He did that, walked in the DA's office, turned in his keys, his badge, all of his credentials, and put in his resignation and left that day. But not before he didn't go save that one guy. And he had basically said, "This is the limit. I can't do this anymore." And I think that was and he became a defense attorney. He turned around and became a defense attorney because he felt like good people were not given a good shake, right? That they weren't given a fair chance. And the system was rigged against them.
The job of a prosecutor is to do justice.
Yeah.
That's what the job of a prosecutor is. And I learned that not in law school. I learned it from my uncle, who was a lawyer when I was growing up, the guy who I admired so much that I became a lawyer because he was an attorney. And he said, he kept his little saying all the time was, it's better that 9 guilty people go free than one not guilty person gets convicted. And that's exactly how I felt, and that's exactly what I took into the office when I went to the office. And you learn very quickly that politics plays a role, at all different kinds of factors play a role in prosecuting certain cases, and prosecuting cases that shouldn't be prosecuted, prosecuting cases that should be prosecuted and aren't, because there are just as many of those as there are on the other side. And,
there's more. There's actually more cases.
There are. Absolutely.
I mean, it's
you're correct. There are. But that's what a prosecutor's job is, to do justice. You have in your hands, you control a man or a woman's life when you step into that courtroom and you step behind that prosecution table and you say, "Ready for trial." That is what you do. Your life, that person's life is in your hands. And if you operate like the bad guys that you're trying to put away, then you're just as bad as they are. Maybe even worse, because you've got the power to do it. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I have another friend who's lived his life as a Boy Scout his entire life. I don't think the guy's had maybe 2 speeding tickets his entire life. Never been in trouble with anyone. He just left a store, is going into a roundabout. A woman is 30 feet away with her 2 dogs away from her kid, who is less than 2 feet tall, on a little mini bike. He's 4 years old. She said 5. Date of birth says 4. He hits with his tire the back tire of his bike, not knowing he hit anyone. She's screaming. 10,000 cars go through this intersection. He didn't know he hit anyone, right? But he got stopped, pulled over. The guy pulled in front of him and said, "Hey, you need to go back there." He went back there, talked to the cop. Cop's like, "Just go home." Cop tells him to go home. They charge him with leaving the scene of an accident and child endangerment, right? Because the woman goes and screams racism, racism, racism. She's black, he's white, right? That's all she does. Scream. She goes to the police station. Racism, racism. It was a set. It felt like a setup from the beginning. And The DA is in a predominantly, they want to make sure that they can't be called racist. So afraid of it that politically is why they charge them with the crime.
What we were talking about before. You're afraid to do what's right because you're looking at either the color of the skin or the ethnicity or the religion of somebody. It's absolutely the case.
I went to got all this information on her. She's a piece of shit. Who lets their 5-year-old go through an intersection 30 feet away from them while you're playing with your dogs? 10,000 cars. The place is super busy, and he literally is the size of a dog, as far as his height off the ground. Not wearing a helmet in an intersection with 10,000 cars a day.
I would argue that the child endangerment was the mother's violation.
If you want to charge him for doing something wrong, great, charge her for child abuse.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have not made this case public yet, but I plan on it. If they don't do the right thing in the court, I'm gonna skewer the DA in that case.
Oh, it's still pending. The case is pending. The case.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
And the mother lied. The mother lied about where she was. Said she was with her son. She wasn't. I mean, it's just a scummy situation. And then the media picked it up and started talking about her as if she's, this super victim. But look, I know way too much about the scams that go on, right? And I mean, I grew up a hood rat, and my mother was a little shady, right? So I mean, I can't trust the system. But now we have Mamdani. I gotta get to this because I think it's really important. Mamdani wants to abolish misdemeanors and reduce the jail population.
Oh yeah.
What's this going to do to the city?
It's going to devolve back into the way it was before Giuliani came in, where there were 2,000 murders on a regular basis in New York. In Brooklyn, we had more murders than you could possibly imagine. I was working homicide duty at that point, and I was out. When I was when I was on call that day, I would be out sometimes the entire night into the next day, going from precinct to precinct, asking, questioning people, taking statements from witnesses, taking statements from defendants. It was horrific. And that's the way it's going to be. And if the other thing that's going to happen, it started already, is that the police officers are starting to resign from the NYPD. So if you're close, you're going. Close to retirement age, you're going. And I believe what's going to happen, and Ray Kelly, the former police commissioner, said this the other day, that the cops are going to resign en masse because they're not going to be able to live with a mayor who is going to tell them you can't arrest someone because they committed a misdemeanor. I mean, misdemeanors. You go back to the old broken windows theory. Misdemeanors was the central factor in that way of combating crime.
Mike?
So I'm sorry, not it's broken windows theory. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The broken windows theory. Bad guys. You don't necessarily catch them when they do the bad things, but you do catch them when they go into a store and rip off the shoplift or jump a turnstile or do things of that nature. All of those things are out, and it's going to be horrific. Under de Blasio, it was horrific, where he did the same kind of thing. He didn't say it out loud, but shoplifting became something that everybody did. Everybody who was a bad guy did. There were people held themselves up as heroes because they had done, they had been arrested 100 times for shoplifting. Go on Madison Avenue in Midtown Manhattan and see how many stores are boarded up and not boarded up, but empty because of things like this. It will get worse. It will get worse because the city cannot survive with a crime rate that is just out of control. Who's going to want to come here?
Well, you remember Gonzalez v. Castle Rock was the case out of Colorado, coincidentally enough, out of Castle Rock. So it was Castle Rock. Gonzalez was a mother who said that the police knew that they had an obligation to protect the community. But the Supreme Court ruled that the police department does not have an obligation to protect anybody in the community. True story. That was a Supreme Court case, right?
What a joke.
And that
What, the Supreme
case
Court
led
of Colorado?
no Supreme Court of the United States.
Really?
Yeah, look it up. Gonzalez v. Castle Rock.
Okay.
It is a landmark case that says the police do not have an obligation to protect you. True story.
Wow. Okay.
So under that guise, police departments have changed and said, we'll just show up to clean up.
Yeah.
And that's in essence since that case happened, that's in essence what police departments have become. Now, with that said, I'm a firm believer that the police officers in New York City and around the country can change all of this. They can change all of it tomorrow, like that. They can get together and say, hey, listen, we have to have density. They build a brotherhood. They're supposed to have a fraternity anyway. Back to blue brotherhood. And they could say, yeah, we're not interested. We're going to keep arresting people. And the police chief's going to be like, hey, you need to stop arresting these people and bringing them in. And be like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. See, our job is to serve and protect.
No question. They could do that. Absolutely.
And if they did that en masse, the same way you're talking about en masse quitting, right? They would reset all the expectations because you're like, listen, we're done. None of us are going to work. How many police officers are there in New York? 200,000?
No, in the New York City Police Department, it's like 40,000, something like that. 35 to 40,000. Yeah.
That's not a lot. Let's say it's 40,000, okay? 40,000. All you have to do is get 20,000 to say, yeah, we're all part of the fraternity.
No question.
We start enforcing the law or we're out. Instead, they're in one of the largest fraternities in the world. Hands down, police officers have an amazing amount of power, just like the people do. Like we have power too. Like we could stand together. You get 500 or 600 men in a community, each community, that police show up and is like, yeah, you beat that guy. And they're like, yeah, we need to arrest you. And you're like, yeah, you're not arresting anybody. And you have 500 guys that show up to say, you're not arresting anybody. That guy literally pulled a knife. And so he beat the hell out of him. And he's lucky he didn't stab him with his own knife. Right? Mm-hmm. You're not arresting him. Well, we have to let it go through the process of the course. No, we're not interested. You're leaving him alone. Right? That would change everything, Mike. If we got to an ethical place in our community where we held people accountable in our community and we didn't allow the police officers to use the sharp stick to do what they're doing, if they could become a part of this solution in our community, then the judges would become these rotted out judges that keep putting people on the street would have no power.
But you hit on something that's very interesting because when this whole thing started with the cashless bail and letting people out for certain things in this state, I thought to myself, what would happen if I was sitting on the bench and I was a judge and I had someone come before me and this is one of these no bail situations, it's not eligible for bail. But the guy has now been in front of me 10 times for basically the same thing. I said to myself, you know what? If I was on the bench, I would simply just say, you're going in. I would order the court officers to put him in, and I would hold bail. I would make him go to the appellate court and have them reduce the bail back to nothing, do whatever. You have to take a stand somehow. And I think that if that happens, as you just said, Joe, if police officers get together and say, listen, they don't want us to make they don't want us to make misdemeanor arrests. Well, you know what? We're going to do it anyway. What do they do? You think the mayor is going to fire everybody on the police force? I don't think so. Now, it may seem like anarchy to certain people, but I think that it's for the good of the city. They would have to disobey that particular directive from the city. It's not can't take the laws off the books because the laws are written by the legislature. So if shoplifting, let's say, is still on the books and it's done right in front of a cop, if the cops get together and say, we're locking them up, let somebody else let them go, but we're locking them up. And then every time they do it, it starts to put pressure on people to say, listen, something's got to be done because we've got to change the rules and get it back to the way it used to be. So I agree with you. I think that there is a lot to say for that. kind of, I'll call it this, some mob mentality, but mob mentality for the good rather than for the bad.
We're in the process of building it right now. We have a brotherhood that we're building right now. Fraternity, call it what do you want. Loose affiliated group that says, yeah, you're not touching us anymore. We're done with you. And frankly, Mike, there has to be a little bit of vigilante in there as well. There has to be. You got to have a code. There has to be a code in our community that right sides what's happening ethically. I know I'm saying that to you, and you're like, well, but.
Well, listen to me. I think that is where New York City will head if Mamdani is the mayor and doesn't allow the police department to do their job. I believe it. I believe that's where they'll head. That's
the fact that somebody would even take that advice. I mean, if you were the police chief and the mayor came to you and said, hey, you need to stop arresting people, no misdemeanors. If I was a police chief, I'd be like, hey, let me go to my 40,000 people. Hey, fellas, ladies, I think we need to whoop this mayor's ass, right? Screw him. We're going to arrest them all. We're going to fill them up with misdemeanors.
I agree with you. I think that's what they should do. That's what I said before. If I was a judge and somebody came before me and it was, I couldn't set bail, but the guy has just committed his 15th robbery without a weapon, which is no bail crime in New York. I would put the guy in and let him come before me again. I put him in again. Somebody else put him in again. So let the appellate court now say to me, hey, judge, you can't do that. Say, well, why not? What are you going to do? You want to remove me from the bench? Okay, remove me from the bench. Take it,
but the judges are rotted to the core. They're all, 90% of them are communist trash.
Listen, and we talked before about money, talked before about running for office and wanting to be in a position of a judge with the power that a judge has. They're going to listen to whoever is pulling or has the purse strings. And it's like that guy that I talked to you about the last time, the head of the Democrat Party, who was the guy who put judges literally on the bench because of he said, you either do this the way I want it done or you're not going to get the judgeship. And they would do it because they wanted the judgeship. So, that's is at the core of the corruption. It's the people doing that for either power or money or both. But somebody has to stand up at some point and say,
imagine
no more.
Selling your community out, your country out for a bag of silver.
Yeah. I know.
All right. So what do you think the impact's going to be if Mamdani pushes for faster suspect releases and repeat offenders are allowed to continue to act with impunity?
I think the crime rate that has, believe it or not, started to come down in the city after the new police commissioner was appointed. Adams, the mayor, had a lot of pressure on him. First of all, to save his own ass because he was going to get indicted, and did get indicted. So he knew, he woke up and said, I got to do something different.
But he got indicted, Mike. He got indicted. He got indicted because he wouldn't play ball with them. They held something over his head, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to put my people in."
But that was the feds, Biden's people. I'm talking about what he did in the city. He needed somebody on his side. So, in my opinion, what I think happened, he said, "This is the way I'm going to denounce the progressive side of politics. I'm going to take the Democrat Party and do what I want to do with what I can do." And he named this police commissioner, it is Jessica Tisch, who is terrific. She is, and the crime rate has come down, Joe. It really has. But that's what needs to be done. Someone's got to step up. And this guy Mamdani, so you asked me what I think is going to happen. If he doesn't appoint her, and I think if he doesn't reappoint her, she's going to quit in a week because he's going to say to her, you can't do what you want to do. So what I think is going to happen, we're going to get into a position where cops are going to, as I said before, are going to leave en masse, and we're going to have social workers show up at horrific events where a husband kills his wife, or a wife kills her husband, or this horrible domestic situation situation. He wants to send social workers to those situations. The only way that will go by the boards is if one of those social workers winds up getting killed at one of these events. That will now wake people up and say, oh, wait a second, maybe this doesn't work. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think that the city is going to wind up horrifically bad. It's going to be very, very bad. And because it's bad now, he wants to make it worse. He wants to make it. So that's what I think. It's the only thing that's why I say I may move out, may leave the city because we may not be able to live here anymore. It's bad enough that you drive in your car and for a while there, if you stopped at a light in certain neighborhoods, you run the risk of getting carjacked. So right. I never used to drive around with my doors locked car when I was driving around the city, it just never did. Once a few things happened, now I drive around as soon as I get in the car, I lock the door and I drive around with my door locked because I can't.
Do you carry a gun?
No, I don't have a gun. No, I don't. But
then you definitely have to leave there and go to a place where you can have a gun.
Yeah, we have to leave here. That's for sure. No question.
I don't go anywhere without a gun.
Okay. Well,
I do not pass go. I do not go anywhere without a gun, period. Now, mine's a little different because people have tried to literally kill me, but.
Oh, yeah. You're on, you're out there.
I'm on the list. I'm on the Antifa list. The organization that doesn't exist. Yeah, they got a little. I remember going to a Reddit Discord or whatever, Discord deal, and I got sent this whole file thing. And they're like, Joe, just letting you know that they're hunting you. And I was like, okay, well, I get to hunt them too.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you got to
don't miss.
What's the state of the law in Colorado with guns? Is it
I have a concealed
register
carry.
And you can carry? Huh? Say it again.
I have a concealed carry.
Oh, okay.
But they're trying to take that away too. They're trying to take away the rights of people in Colorado. And it's the bad part about having, machines and mail-in ballots, right? You have a system that's designed to defraud the American people, and you
without a doubt. Without a doubt. You just walk in with a suitcase full of ballots and say, yeah, the old people in my neighborhood couldn't get here, so I just put them in and I collected them for them. But they're all legitimate, of course. They're all legitimate. So here, and they count them. If you think that doesn't happen, then you got to bridge this.
If you do stay, you're definitely going to have a gun. I mean, you're going to have to. I mean, and I think you could qualify, but based on the fact that you were a prosecutor.
Well, when I was in private practice for a short period of time, I got a contract with a guy who was helping people. He was an ex-cop, and he was helping people get gun permits. And when they didn't get them, he would come to us, my law firm. We would represent them and represent them either in court or with the department, et cetera. Because both myself and my partner had worked in the police department before we went into private practice. So it was really a very difficult thing to get in New York, a carry permit. You had to have, for the most part, it was a business. And you had cash that you were carrying around, or if you were threatened by, as either a businessman or even as a civilian many times, and you can prove it, then you had a shot at getting a carry permit. But things were supposed to have loosened up after a Supreme Court case.
Yeah, it was supposed to, but it didn't.
Yeah, but they didn't. It didn't. The governor here is is an idiot.
So this is why I say we live in a state of absolute lawlessness. Supreme Court came down and said, nope, it's a violation of the Second Amendment. You have to give people a concealed carry. So then the state of New York New York City said, no, we're not going to do it anyway. So we don't care what you say.
Exactly. And then
that's sedition, by the way. That's sedition.
Yeah, I know. And you can't go to federal court and sue them because more than likely you're going to get a judge that was appointed by someone who is not going to go on your is not going to be on your side. So
it's not even on your side. That means they're politically motivated to just do the bidding. It has nothing to do with constitutionality.
Precisely. I know. I have lost a lot of respect for for an institution that I was a part of for a long time. And when I took pride in it. And now I tell my friends, some of the guys that I used to work with, we were working now, we'd get locked up every day. A judge would put us in jail and hold us in contempt every day because we would never stand for what goes on in the courtroom. We'd make a fuss and they'd say, listen, to the court officers, put them in, shut them up. That's what would happen. And, so it's a really, really, really bad situation. And, and it's all, again, I say this and I mean it, it's all about money and power and maintaining it. And that's what is at the root of all of this evil. It really is.
Well, we just haven't found our courage yet, right? We really haven't. And I think if we wait too much longer to smack them around, President Trump's doing what he can. But if we don't get to the place where we start pushing back on this nonsense and throwing judges out of their seats, throwing politicians out, redoing, I actually think that they're getting to the place right now where they want it to be lawless so that good people end up in jail so that they can just have it's like a heyday.
There is no doubt in my mind that you're correct. No doubt. But it's in addition to Trump, it's also important in races like the ones that'll take place in November. The governor of Virginia, the governor of New Jersey are both up. Those, it's important that they get not flipped because Youngkin is a Republican, but it's important that they hold that seat. In Jersey, it's very important that she doesn't, the woman who's running on the Democrat side doesn't get elected. And if that starts to happen on the East Coast, then I think that we might start seeing a turnaround. I really do. And
without getting rid of machines and mail-in ballots. If you don't get rid of machines and mail-in ballots,
no question. No question. And there's no way that anybody is going to sign into law to make it illegal for it to have mail-in ballots or voting machines. It's really a sad situation. But
the big push for me over the next 90 days is going to be machines and mail-in ballots, and I'm just going to continue to hammer it over and over and over again.
Good, you should. Yeah. You should. It's about the voting booth is one of the most powerful.
It's the great equalizer.
In this country.
Great equalizer.
Yes, right.
And if we get, and you can tell that the left is not taking President Trump seriously, or anyone that's deep in reform. They just don't care. They know that you're not touching. If you don't touch the levers that control the foundation, you have nothing. If you don't take chess pieces off the table, you have nothing. And so far, we've taken not one chess piece off the table. So their system is still intact.
I do think we need to start with appointing someone to be the czar of the investigation against Antifa. I really believe that. I think that is the beginning. And there are people in this country who are so qualified to do it, qualified to do the investigation, and then put them into, I believe, a RICO case and try them. Look, people thought that mob was untouchable. Couldn't find them, didn't know who they were. And then RICO was written, and the five families, the heads of the five families were tried here in New York. Giuliani was the prosecutor.
The problem is that you have to, because the judiciary is so rotted, you've got to find a place where you can. The judges are literally they're not just rotted; they're past rotted. Like they're seditious, treasonous traitors.
There's also one other thing, Joey, is I can't believe it every time I see it or hear it, that somebody on the left wants to sue Trump, let's say, and they miraculously wind up in a courtroom where a judge has been appointed by Obama or Biden or some Democrat. That's when I was working, when I was at the prosecutors, and when I was a defense attorney. If I went into federal court, you had to stand there while they went into the wheel. And they actually chose the judge and so it came out hopefully on your side and maybe not. In Supreme Court, it was the same way. In fact, the judge that I put in jail and put away, he had his whole the clerk's office was so bad that the attorneys knew that if I went to a particular clerk and paid him, he would rig it so that I got this dirty judge. So, or they got this judge, and that's the way it was. So that's another part of the system that people don't understand. That clerks' offices and DMV and places like that are also part of the problem. Part of the problem. We had a case just recently in the paper. I saw it yesterday. There was this guy, one of these truck drivers, illegal truck, have these.
Yeah,
in New York, he had a New York driver's license with no name on it.
Yeah.
No name.
And they finally arrested him in Ohio.
Yep.
Mr. No Name.
I got to tell you, when I had the contract put out on me and all kinds of stuff when I was working, one of the things that one of my detectives said to me, he said, Mike, we have to notify the DMV because who knows, they're going to be looking perhaps for your son's addresses and they both have cars. I said, yes, we have to put flags on them because you can't trust anybody at DMV. They'll take money and give whoever it is who wants it the address of whoever it is they're looking for. So DMV is another place. And see, but that's sort of, you're really on a low level, but a very important low level because of the information that the DMV carries, addresses, names, that kind of stuff. And
well, how about the people? How about the people that run the flock cameras now? These flock cameras, these flock cameras that are on every. Have you heard of flock cameras?
No.
So they put flock cameras on all the cruisers. They basically read every license plate, run all the information on the license plates. Yeah. They have them on every, pole for. Right. I mean, it's completely a surveillance state environment. Yep. But these flock cameras, and now they have flock drones that can fly for 20 hours, that they can write you tickets from a drone that flies over the highway, and they just send you a ticket and say, yeah, you have to pay us $300. I mean, come on, Mike, it's gotten out of hand. You can't take care of the criminals, but I mean, it's.
But a guy driving on the highway, maybe 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, gets a drone ticket from him. It's terrible. But more importantly, with regard to those kinds of things, who controls the mechanism to spit out the tickets? Because those people have information about the guy who's behind the wheel or the woman behind the wheel. Who knows who wants that information? So it's very easy. You go to DMV or go to whoever runs that thing, and you pay them they don't even have to pay them a lot of money, and they'll turn over information. That's how corrupt the potential is for the government to be. It's really a very, very bad situation. I agree, Joe. I agree. And every time I hear, this so-and-so group has filed a case against, ICE. Who got it? Oh, it's a Biden judge. Or who got it? It's an Obama judge.
Because they had to wait till 2020 because they had density. And now they have density. Like we've waited. This is why I don't think you solve this without declaring war. I mean, it's sedition. You're going to have military tribunals. I don't see any other way. I mean, logistically, it would take 100 years to prosecute all the people that need to be prosecuted. You're going to have military tribunals, put 50,000 people on deal and just run through them like this. Boom, 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 boom. Because you have generals, you have people in positions of trust and authority, you have judges, you have police officers, you have lawyers, you have DAs. They're all on the take. Every single one of them. They're on the take. Let me say that. Not every single one of them. That was wrong. I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
But your people like you don't exist anymore, in large part.
Yeah. It's really a sad. That's why I said before that if my friends and I were still working, we got locked up every day. I would be calling the DA and say, listen, she locked me up again, or he locked me up again. I mean, she's holding me in contempt for something that, you can't keep your mouth shut. If some guy comes before you or you're prosecuting them and they've been in here 15 or 20 times for the same thing and she's going to hold them in no bail, that's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But that's what happens every day, Joe, every single day in this, and other states, every day. And who gets hurt? Poor guys on the subway. There's a guy the other day, I don't know if you probably didn't see this. Across the street from the DA's office is a big kind of industrial park with a bunch of buildings, and it's there's banks and a lot of offices, etc. There's a subway station right there called the Metrotech subway station. This guy was coming in to the station, was a guy next to it, and he asked him a quick question. The guy who was the bad guy said something. I forgot, asked him a question, and the guy answered it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The good guy said, "Are you okay?" He looked like he was in trouble. You know what the guy did? Took out a bludgeon and kicked and beat this guy to death. He was from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, elderly guy, Italian guy, but he would march in the feasts and he would do all. He was a security guard, just for no reason. And guess what? The guy had just been let out. He had done almost the exact same thing, had just been let out, and he's back on the street. And this poor guy now is dead because some piece of shit judge didn't have the balls to say, you know what, you're going in. You're going in. And it happened every day. I pick up the newspaper. It's another problem like that. So terrible.
It just
really
it doesn't. And the reality of it is that a bad person will get a break, and they'll say, "I'll give you 2 years," and a good person will throw in the book 20 years.
Yeah. Well, the guy that came across the country to kill Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh got 8 years. And the judge had the balls to say, well, you know, he's transitioning. So it must be something to do with his transitioning from a man to a woman. Do you believe that? This guy, I couldn't believe it. How does the judge go home and sleep at night saying that and doing what that judge did? I don't understand it. I really don't. So, oh God, it got me all worked up now, Joe.
Well, and I'm worked up. I mean, I'm worked up because this is not hard to fix. This is not difficult to fix. It's just not. All you have to do is care enough about your community and for men to stand up. That's it. Correct. Men just have to stand up. That's it.
But also on the other side of it, the political side of this is not hard to fix either. Why do I say that? Because 4 years ago, or now I guess 6 years ago, wait a second. I guess it's 8 now because de Blasio was in. The city and this country wasn't in this state of affairs. It wasn't like this. It wasn't at all. But, you know, it seems like all of the bad things in society have come to a head at the same time. And I believe it's because we had people like de Blasio in New York in power who just simply looked the other way. I don't care. I had my honeymoon in Cuba. I want to give away things to people. I want to defund the police. These are people who should never, ever be in a position of authority in any state, city, town, village, whatever, but they are. Another thing I think about all the time is, why are these half morons are in government when there are lots of good people out there who could be in, but don't, because they don't want to face the shit that they have to face by to run for office, where you've got a kowtow.
Well, you can't get in anyway.
Soros,
Mike, you have stolen elections.
Yeah.
They get to pick and choose. It's a selection process. And here's the bad part about it. I know you know this. I know that in your heart of hearts, you've been in situations where you're like, that's just not right. And you know it's not right. Everyone knows it's not right. But that person's getting away with it. The judge lets them off, or you're told not to prosecute them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I've been in those situations. You're right. You're right.
And so you know it's not right. But we're not allowed to do the right thing. And we know this.
Yep.
But these selected politicians on both sides, They get up and they say, I'm here for the American people. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
Yep, I know.
And then social media props them up. Everyone props them up.
What we have to do is people watching you, Joe, have to go and make sure that they vote and vote the right way. And maybe this country won't be lost if there are enough of them. If you personally can convert a lot of people. You know that, right? If you just continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm starting to speak out more in places that are unpopular for me, that are unsafe for me. And I tell everyone, we either get rid of machines and mail-in ballots or we die. And by the way, it's going to kill every one of us.
Yeah.
And 90% are going to die, and you're not on the list for the 10% to live. So if you think you are, you're not. You're not going to make the list. So there you go.
And one other thing, and then I know that you got to move on to other people, but let me just say one other thing to you. You started out by talking about the devil is real.
Yeah.
He is, or it is. And do not simply write off the fact that that his hoof or hand is involved in the way society has turned for the bad, as opposed to staying or remaining on the good side. Don't write that off as being crazy. It's exactly what he wants: chaos. And
I wear this rosary that was blessed by the Pope Leo, at the Vatican, and I have to wear it every day. I don't take it off. I sleep with it. And the reason why I do that is because I truly believe that the devil is at work in our lives, and we have to have that fiery reminder of how to rebuke and to repel it.
Precisely.
Right?
Precisely. Can I just do a little? I want to tell you a story, and it's part of it as a plug, because I have written 3 books, all of them called Fallen Angel, and they are about the devil being in Brooklyn, instigating some of the more horrific crimes that I have been involved in, and all of them are true crimes, even though the book is the surrounding circumstances of fiction. But what I want to say is how I got this idea. I tried a case once, and I may have mentioned it last time I was on, of a young Hasidic Jewish girl who was walking the Williamsburg Bridge, a bridge between Brooklyn and Manhattan, for exercise on a Sunday morning. And she was set upon by a guy who was a junkie who had been arrested. He was a horrible guy. In fact, I tried him twice, because in another case, he killed his best friend who was helping him out every day by giving him money and giving him food, etc. He wound up killing this guy. But with this young girl, he thought that she had money, set upon her. She didn't have any money. He strangled her to death, took her to a part of the bridge, then took her clothes off, violated her sexually to make it seem as if a sex offender had done this. And if that wasn't enough, he came back and burnt her body beyond recognition. Okay? When I tried that case, I said to the jury that it's as if Satan had come to Brooklyn and set upon this young girl and do what he did to and do what he did to her. And that's why we're here. And I truly believe that. When I said that, it came to me as I was sitting preparing the case and writing my summation that the devil was in Brooklyn, in this guy, and he caused that young woman's death. And that was something that I carried with me as I started my writing career, and now I've done 3 books about it. And when you read them and you see the cases and how insidious he is, and how he fits into all of these cases, which again I told you are all true, all happened, then you'll understand why I say that he is here and he is instigating and he is doing the things that you and I have talked about, and we have to continue to fight. And the way to fight him is what you said, Joe. You say that, wear that rosary and say your prayers, and just continue to have faith. I really believe that's the way to do it.
That's truly all we can do, right? That's all we can do, and do our part. I mean, you have to be able to speak truth. Galatians 4:16 says, "Am I the enemy if because I tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And
But when-
and go ahead.
But when
Sam.
you say all that we can do, it's not a minimum amount. That is what needs to be done. That's what needs to be done. And people can't talk me out of this. They can't say, oh, you just made all of that up. You can't explain some things that happen. I couldn't explain what happened, why young people would be killed, why a certain woman would be killed in the way she was, why, there is an evil force, and he's here.
And the only way to put evil back into its hole is by force. And I know that people say that was it Luke 22:37, where Jesus says, "Sell your cloak and buy a sword," and they're like, "Oh no, that's not what that really means." You have pastors say, "No, it means." No, you're going to have to fight. Evil is something you're going to have to fight. You're not going to be able to walk away and say, "Oh, it's." Hey, I found you, evil. And evil's like, oh, you caught me. Okay, I'm going to go hang out over here in the hole now. Oh, it's all better now, right? The devil's not going to do that. Yeah, it's a fight. It's a fight.
Well, look, he threw out the everybody from the temple. That wasn't just a mistake. That wasn't just some figment of someone's imagination. He saw bad, he saw evil, and he took action. So point to that. And then he'll say, they can't say that, oh, that you're just interpreting something in a way that's not the correct way to interpret it. So,
absolutely. All right,
Joe. Thank
Mike,
you.
Thanks for coming on. I want to plug your books here real quick. Put your site up real quick. Put that up if you would. So this is your site, and you can actually get all 3 books on this site, correct?
All the Fallen Angel books. The book about doctors and nurses who are killing veterans in veterans hospitals. I did a book about that. The mafia cops, and my memoir, Crooked Brooklyn, where I describe the corruption investigation that took me 8 years took 8 years of my life away from me. And so they're all there. And then there's also a couple of ebooks too.
Yeah. So
the one I talked about with the young woman.
Yeah.
The one on the right there, Murder on the Bridge. That's that story. So.
Are they all available on ebook?
All available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. They're all available online. Yeah.
All right. I know that I ordered one. It's on that stack of books, so I have one. But I'll probably end up reading them all.
And the ones here.
I'm kind of a reading junkie, man. I read a lot.
Good. Well, I'm going to send you hard guys, and I'll send it to you in a PDF, so you don't have to buy it. And then I really hope that you'll. I know you will. You'll have me back, and we can talk about the book. It'll take up the whole show. That's good. It'll be.
I mean, the sooner you can get it to me, the better. When's it going to come out? Do you know when you're going to drop it?
Well, no, it won't be out available to buy until probably early next year, because I got to do the cover. I got to do all kinds of stuff, so, all right.
All right.
I'm due to see you again in November. So maybe if you read it by then, we can chat a little bit about it. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. God bless you, brother.
I'll see you, brother. Take care.
All right.
Have a good one.
Mike's one of my favorite people. And, one of the great parts about the job that I have is that I get to meet some of the most amazing people that are out there. And I feel like I learned something more, that I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. All the things that you think about the fact that why are we negotiating with the ridiculous? Why is you get on socials and you see people that are propping up Antifa and saying, it's an ideology, it's not, we're just anti-fascist, we just don't like fascist people. You burn the flag in the street, you murder people, you groom children to be deviants, you try to sexualize 5-year-olds. Like, there's no part of what they do that even remotely doesn't reek of evil. And we sit back and we put up with it because pastors tell us to. They tell us, oh, you got to put up with it. I'm like, no, I don't. No, you don't. You don't have to put up with it. That's the whole point. We talked about these NGO, this NGO funding. And we talked about all the stuff that's happening in the country. And one of the things that just blows my mind is that every night they're out there. And now all of the regime, all of these sleeper cell attorney generals and judges and governors, they're coming out saying, hey, we're going to have the largest No Kings rally and millions of people are going to go on the street. Just so you know, millions of people are not going to go to the street. It's not going to happen because nobody has an appetite for these radical wackos. I want to show you something. Here's an update in Portland for the Antifa protesters. And so they couldn't actually keep stuff in their homeless camps. So they had to go get it and set up somewhere else. So they decided they're just going to rent facilities and load up facilities. Go ahead and watch this.
I'm here in Portland right now, and it looks like Antifa, the protesters here, have had a shipment dropped off in a U-Haul right here. They're saying it's all the stuff that's been taken away from rapid response and from people since they've been out here. So there's a whole U-Haul full of stuff that's been getting dropped off right now of all of the equipment from the past few months of their protests. You have all this stuff that's getting dropped off right here. You have all of the inflatables as well that the people have been protesting in. A little strange, they have a U-Haul shipment full of all of the stuff that's apparently been taken away. So stuff's been coming in. There's still protesters out right now. It's like 4 p.m. right now, I believe. And the protesters are starting to show up here to the ICE facility in Portland.
Think about this. They want to dress them up in frog outfits to say how ridiculous it is and that these are good people. Lipstick on a pig. But here, let's go ahead and check this out. Here's what the DHS had to say. Man, I hate hopium, but let's go ahead and watch what they have to say. 2. That guy looks like he's having a really bad day. And this is the way they need to be dealt with. Somebody said, Joe, you know, their First Amendment. Where was the First Amendment when they showed up at the churches and showed up on Sean Fuentes, who went into churches in Canada and they threw in smoke bombs? And then it turns out that the people that threw in the smoke bombs worked for the Canadian government, that went into a church to terrorize someone that was praying and singing with churchgoers. And that somebody inside of the Canadian military defense complex, if you don't believe me, go look it up. Caught red-handed. I want to show you something else. Oregon has budgeted $1.5 billion. Just imagine how many times you had to struggle through because you had to pay your bills and things got tight. I just imagine you had to pay these taxes every month, every week. Well, I want to show you this. This is Oregon has budgeted $1.5 billion for illegal alien healthcare programs for 2 years. Go ahead and play it.
Expect to allocate $1.5 billion in combined state and federal tax dollars on a program that offers health benefits to illegal migrants from 2025 to 2027. Now, during that very same period, they expect to spend $717 million on the Oregon State Police.
So they're going to spend twice as much money on people that shouldn't be here as they do on the police force, which, by the way, based on the Supreme Court interpretation, has no obligation to take care of you and your community. All right, so let's move on to something that we have to cover. The Trump peace deal. I'm not a fan of Netanyahu. And I said this before, and maybe you, like I call them the Bibi Jews. You know, the radical Church of Satan, the synagogue of Satan. people, the ones that are faithless atheists. They're not really not atheists. They're just evil. But you can't, look, there are evil white people. They're called Antifa. They're called radical leftists. Those are evil white people. You have evil black people that stab people to death, act like animals. You even got evil Chinese people, although, I don't know. I haven't met any bad Chinese people yet. I've never met a Chinaman where I've been like, oh yeah, that guy's terrible. Have you? I mean, where are all the bad Chinese people? I mean, the only thing we hear about is the guys over in China. Maybe they're bad. Okay, but so you have evil Chinese people too. And you got evil Mexicans. They're in cartels and shoot and behead people and do really bad stuff to people. But are all of them evil? See, that's the thing that they've done to us. They've created these things. I'm glad that the hostages on both sides got released. I'm glad that we actually got to a peace deal. I still think Laura Loomer is a little nuts. Go ahead and play cut one.
Mr. President, thank you for all you have done for us. I have submitted your nomination to be the first non-Israeli recipient of the Israel Prize, Israel's highest award. As to that other prize, just a question of time, you'll get it. But I want you to get the Israel Prize, our highest award.
That was in Parliament, by the way, in Israeli Parliament. And you notice that there wasn't a lot of clapping because most people don't support Bibi. Most Jews don't support Bibi. It's a fact. Nobody wants to talk about that. You have the Bibi Jews and then you have everyone else. And currently, Bibi has 3 corruption cases pending. 3. Because he's a corrupt piece of shit. And President Trump has to, he said the other day, see, I actually do believe that President Trump is the biggest ally to Israel because he's willing to do what's necessary in order to do what they won't do. And he's got to hold his tongue, and he's got to hold his nose because you have these synagogue of Satan shit people that he's got to negotiate with and take the lesser of 2 evils. But Netanyahu called President Trump the greatest friend to Israel to ever have in the White House. And look at President Trump's face when you watch this. Go ahead and play it.
No American president has ever done more for Israel. And as I said in Washington, it ain't even close. It's really not a match. Mr. President, today we welcome you here to thank you for your pivotal leadership in putting forward a proposal that got the backing of almost the entire world. A proposal that brings all our hostages home.
All right, so let me push the last 10 months for you, right? Let me get to the last 10 months for you. Where do you want me to start? Let me start it for you. Iran was bombed. Massive push to label anything that you say to criticize Israel as anti-Semitism. You're not allowed to tell the truth about Israel, right? Slave. You're a slave. You're a slave to the synagogue of Satan. And don't tell me that you're a slave and it says in Genesis that those that bless Israel are blessed. Where are we blessed by this relationship where we're bombing people and killing people with impunity? Where? TikTok was handed over to Israel, Larry Ellison, who then went ahead and canceled a bunch of people. I can't keep a video up on TikTok because that little list. Ellison is also the head of Oracle. Man, just let it rain government contracts. And his son, David Ellison, acquired CBS. So now We control the media, the courts, our military, our technology. We're bombing things with impunity. And now, by the way, if you really want to get indoctrinated, I need you to know something. If you listen to Jewish podcasts, they're going to pay you $15. I shit you not. Put this up. Earn money listening to Jewish podcasts. $15 a cast. You too can be a little Shapiro follower. They're paying you $15 to listen to a Jewish podcast. What is wrong with this world? Well, by the way, they are censoring Rumble. They are censoring X. They are censoring TikTok. They're just censoring everything. Facebook, doesn't matter. They got a little list. They walk in there and like, don't let Joe Oltmann talk. Yeah, he makes too much sense. And by the way, the things that he's saying, it's crazy because people might actually start listening to the truth. Please, show it. Listen, share, earn, repeat. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They will pay you to listen to Jews talk. That's it. And you have to have a podcast mentor. So they suck you in, make you listen to a podcast, and then you'll be paired with a mentor. You listen to the podcast, you meet with your mentor to discuss, and they pay you $15. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So they can just lie to you. Look, I don't care if the person is a gay dinosaur or a leprechaun. Well, what are we looking at? What's the library look like?
We're looking at featured speakers right now.
Who do we have? Featured topic, featured speakers. Oh, yeah, okay. Judaism Unpacked, Rabbi David Aaron, Rabbi Henry Abramson, Rabbi. Oh my gosh. I should check out his podcast. Let me check out some of these podcasts. What's it called?
You should check out Nissan Black.
I like him.
Yeah, he looks cool.
Woo! Let me see if I can turn this off real quick.
He was a rapper.
Oh, he went into the bio.
Gangsta rapper.
He was?
That's what his bio says.
All right, what is the other podcast? What is the... Let me see if I can find it. There we go. Personal Growth and Development. HOH, Permission to Be Human. What's HOH? Is that the podcast? I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it. Okay, forget it. Take it down. Don't go. You got to spend 4 hours of your life to get paid $15. Yep, you should always do that. Lastly, I want to say this. Happy birthday to Charlie Kirk. Man, you just did it right. You were just the guy that literally was great at debate, would not give space to the ridiculous, and did so with an amazing amount of grace. Happy birthday, Charlie. I want to show you this. President Trump had this to say about awarding Charlie the highest honor. It's the Medal of Freedom. Let's go ahead and play it.
He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you.
And here's a Charlie Kirk mural that has arrived at the Portland Ice Building along with the Patriots bringing it in, singing God Bless the USA. Let's go and play it. You saw the old freaks across the street. So just so you know, I looked up some of the podcasts while we had that break. And for those of you that don't know, there's a site called Listen Notes. And you have to, you don't want to be able to game the system, but Listen Notes basically goes through and tells you what podcasts are the most popular. And you can't game it. There's no gaming the system, right? And you'd say, well, Joe, how do you guys fare? Do you fare well? And let me put this up here so you can see it. This is why, by the way, we push across multiple platforms in a lot of different places, because Listen Notes has a listen score, and you have global rankings. So there's a total of like almost 3.7 million podcasts that are out there. And we started actually pushing out Spotify. So I want to say thank you to the people on Spotify that listen to us. I want to say thank you also to the people on Apple Podcasts and some of the other podcasts. And I do know that Rumble stops people from seeing how many people can watch the show. And I'm sorry, like there's nothing I can do about it. It's the more I speak, the more I talk with different guests and bring people on that speak about truth, the more they try to suppress me. It's okay. We'll get through it. But this is Listen Notes has about, 1.4, 1.5 million people a month that come to the site. And our listen score is a 59, and we're in the top 0.1% of podcasts. That's a 1/10 of 1% of podcasts. And you can compare us to other podcasts that are out there, and you can see why this is so high. But I went through, and I'm using that as an example. I went through this site with all these podcasts that you can go listen to, and I think the highest I got so far was a 41 listen score. That means it's not very good. So you got to get paid $15 to listen to somebody who's not very good. There might be some good ones on there. Hey, by the way, Patrick, can you see how the things works? Just try to. Why don't you actually do that? Why don't you watch a podcast, go through the mentor deal? We'll set up a video. So we'll set up a video on you with the mentor, and we will just clown him. Can we?
Yo, he just had that idea.
So we should absolutely punk them. Matter of fact, we're gonna do it. We're gonna punk them.
We'll do it live.
No, don't do it live. Don't do it live. Also want to say this, Mark Cook. I was told today that Mark Cook had an accident in his car. I don't know how he's doing right now, but Gammy did say that Mark Cook had an accident. He hasn't returned my call yet, so I'll let you know. Keep him in your prayers. Joe, you need to get Mike Benz on. Dan Strickletter. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get Mike Benz on. Get Mike Benz on, please. Who else do I need to get on? I've got a couple of pretty fire guests that are coming up here shortly. Victor Marks I'll have on here shortly, so we'll have him on. A lot to discuss. Oh my gosh, Danster's talking about butt plugs. Who are you talking about? Isn't Shmuley the butt plug rabbi? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He sells butt plugs and he's a rabbi. He totally legit. Peace in the East means they won't have to keep funding bullcrap wars. Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, let's pray it out, shall we? Should we pray it out? We had a good day today. Before we do, if you could hit the share button on your way out and hit the up button, let's piss off. By the way, how do we do takeovers? How do we do where we raid somebody else's show? Can we do that? Is there a way to do that in Rumble?
I don't know what that is.
They're called takeovers. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Let me see what they call them. They're called raiding. Are we set up for raids or no?
I'll look into it.
Okay. All right.
Who do you want to raid?
I don't know. I guess I should go check that out first. Viva if he's on, but I think he's already off. I gotta change our time. Super good dude though. All right. Let's pray us out. It was a great day. I want to pray for President Trump. He doesn't think he's going to heaven. I think there's a pretty good chance that President Trump is going to heaven. I don't know all the skeletons in his closet, but I will tell you that he's done some amazing things for the American people and people around the world. And he's pretty hard on himself, which is a lot. So we're going to pray for him. We're going to pray for our leaders. And we're going to pray that we absolutely slaughter this evil that has taken over our communities. So let's pray. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to just work the problem with Mike Vecchione. Thank you, Father, for the patience that you've given us and the courage to continue to stand tall. Thank you for the wonderful people that have been fighting for the last 5 years and some that have been fighting for longer, that have been warning us for decades about what was coming down the pike, that saw things long before any of us even opened our eyes. Father, I ask you to put a special blessing over President Trump right now and just calm his heart and lift the burdens that he must be feeling. I ask you, Father, to give him wisdom and give him the courage to do and make the decisions that he needs to make so that we can restore the thing that I ultimately will lead to a more civilized and more structured and healed community. And that is no machines, no mail-in ballots. An election system that allows for us to, not just in this country, but around the world, respect the sovereignty of the people in our community. To be able to do your will, Father, and to reject all of this evil and these lies that come out of their mouth literally every single day. Help us, Father, that we may be patient, we may walk the path that you have us walk, but that we may be willing to make sacrifices and to give up everything to preserve those opportunities and those blessings that would come to the future. We know if we go back to the first World War I or World War II, we lost many good men that stood up and stood for freedom. And Father, it's not lost on us that we're in a place right now of great peril. So I ask you to give us the strength to continue to push through it, and that you may guide us in our thoughts and our actions to protect and to serve you, and restoring you to our community, to our country, and to be an example to all those people out there, young and old, of what goodness truly means. Father, we ask you to give us the strength to continue to fight, and give us the wisdom that we may act according to that which you would have us fulfill. No more, no less, and that we may stay committed to that restoration. We say these things, Father, we humbly ask these things all in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. All right, let's see what we got here. Go to Mark Cook and X and help. I didn't see anything on Mark on X. Am I missing something? Oh, anyway, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. It's been a crazy day. Go ahead and hit the share button. And yeah, take care.
rise up untamed. In the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the nights. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave